My bad. My bad. Adel fucked up. 0 days since last work incident. You know what the worst part is too is like there's like a 15-second delay on Pilled. So like I have to sit there and just watch people complain after I
Yes.
fixed it for like 15 seconds. Like I know
Why can't you do it right?
yeah, I don't know. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time.
No.
But yeah, just the stream of muted stickers coming up the chat anyway. Sorry everybody, but welcome to Take It Back. We were talking about my shirt, the Rise of Tires shirt, and Zach was pointing out his fight, fight, fight sign, which apparently the city he lives in has a rule against putting
Political yard signs.
yeah, putting yard signs, which is absurd. I've never heard of such a thing from a city. Like
Me either. Me
maybe like
either.
an HOA or something like that, but
Yeah.
that's wild. I
Our
also
our city is kind of like an HOA, to be honest with you. Like we had to get permission to paint our door, and
yeah, way to start the show off, Adel. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, batting 1,000. It's been a while though. That used to be like a weekly occurrence, and it's probably been at least a month since I've come on muted. So we'll take that as a victory. I also got a sweet hat from Rise Attire with that
oh
on there.
yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know. I want to wear that out somewhere and give people oh yeah, I got the that's sweet. I got the Ultra Trump one too, or the
yeah,
Ultra MAGA one.
that's right.
Got like the classic Rise,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
and I couldn't not get one of those. I got my 412 one also. I just don't have it up here in the room with me. Um,
Perfect,
yeah,
perfect.
I'm so happy they got hats. That's awesome.
Definitely, and trucker hats to boot.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Zach, it's awesome to be back with you this week, man. We had a lot going on. I want to just kind of gauge your thoughts on the state of the presidential race right now. Starting with RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard endorsing Donald Trump. RFK Jr. especially. I mean, I know if I've heard you talk about how JFK's assassination and a lot of that is a big part of what kind of got you into all of this. So,
Yeah.
after starting your broadcast and following the Q drops and learning about the deep state and all that they have kind of come full circle and have a Kennedy endorsing a Republican candidate, Donald Trump, no less. It's got to be pretty interesting from your perspective, right?
It definitely is. And, I like back a long time ago when RFK first announced, I was like, there's no way he's going to like win the election. But I said probably the best thing we could hope for would be a Kennedy Trump unity ticket, which is essentially what they're doing now. And Kennedy even said that when Trump first reached out to him, it was for the vice presidential position. Now, that makes a lot of people really anxious, the idea that somebody who's not a Republican would be President Trump's running mate. And I get it. But what we're talking about here is an act of national healing. We're trying to bring together all of these disparate parts of the United States to support one ticket over the other in the interest of saving America. And that's going to require bringing people of different ideologies together. And I think the only way that you can really successfully do that is to have the situation that we're having right now. People choosing to put politics aside and say, we can agree on a lot of things. And certainly there will be things that we won't agree on. But this moment in history is so vitally important that we're willing to just step back a moment. And sometimes we're going to argue and sometimes we're going to vehemently disagree. But in the interest of saving the nation, saving future generations, we're going to put those things aside momentarily and we're going to work together. And by doing so, it brings in wings of these various parties that would not otherwise support President Trump. I think that it is such a game changer. And yes, the irony is not lost on me. The fact that a Kennedy will be part of President Trump's administration and that most likely that Kennedy is going to be responsible for revealing to the United States of America the full deceptive and disgusting practices of the Central Intelligence Agency and the United States security apparatus, which is the deep state. The deep state killed RFK. The deep state killed JFK. The deep state killed MLK. The deep state killed Malcolm X. And the deep state tried to kill Donald Trump. And there are more that you can throw in there, probably any number of them. But to have those people revealed, exposed, and then punished, there's a power in that. And I think that in the interest of getting truth, saving the children, saving future generations, stopping ourselves from being poisoned on a daily basis. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like this is the moment.
I think I asked Frank about this after you had left at the end of last week's show. And I'm curious to get your answer. So you just mentioned about exposing all those truths. And, we always talk about, a second Trump administration. It can't just be like a 4-year reprieve and then back to business as usual. Something so fundamentally like paradigm shifting needs to change. Some kind of big event, some kind of big something that kind of resets the trajectory of the country and puts it back in line. Is exposing the truth behind like some of these assassinations or 9/11 or any of these false flags. Is that enough to kind of wake up the country in a way that's actually meaningful and can have like lasting effects? Like I don't know if we'll ever see the mass arrests or whatever that we all kind of hope to see someday, of all these, deep state criminals. But I feel like, Q said, great awakening is the biggest goal. Awakening the people is the biggest goal. I'm paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is that the way forward? Is just to find a mechanism, a way to just get to kind of rip down the veneer that a lot of people think like this government is, it's doing its best. It has your best interest at heart. It's not perfect. There's corruption everywhere, but to really expose like the interconnected nature of the cabal that rules us, I feel like that's got to be like the big first step, right?
I totally agree. And like we've always said, there's got to be certain things that like universally we can all latch onto and agree on. And I think that that's what RFK is doing right now. I mean, make America healthy again. What can be more fundamental than that? But yes, all of those other things in the background, psychological operations, false flags, lying to the American people, politicians lining their own pockets, federal agencies being controlled by the corporate interests they're supposed to be overseeing. I mean, these things can bring the country together. And it's just one incremental step, one after another, to show every single American, regardless of who they thought they were supporting, whoever they thought they were going to be voting for, that this failed and corrupt establishment that Donald Trump has been railing about since he stepped down that escalator in 2015 truly does not represent the people. And they might think it's a democracy, but it's not. It's supposed to be a republic. All right. It has been twisted. They have taken advantage of our system. They've taken advantage of our lethargy. They've taken advantage of the fact that we've been asleep. And at the same time, they have also brainwashed millions and millions of people. And right now, everything that we're witnessing happening in America is as a result of that failed and corrupt establishment. And that's why people are moving over to Donald Trump. That's why they are going to be supporting him. And then, of course, you've got his solid base, the people who were there before, who are going to support him no matter what. And then once they come into power, what's the best way to make sure that we actually fix the problem? You've got to expose all of those things. You've got to show how broken the system is. And by virtue of that, you're going to have to also show the people that were behind that twisting and perversion of this system. I mean, there has got to be people who get brought to justice that are held to account. I mean, I don't see any way around that. I mean, how do you talk about institutionalized child trafficking, drug trafficking, weapons trafficking without pointing the finger at somebody who's actually doing it?
No, I completely agree. What I really loved about RFK Jr.'s speech when he came out and endorsed Donald Trump, it was an awesome speech. It really was. He brought up big food and big ag and big pharma. I feel like big ag, big agriculture, big food. I feel like that was always kind of a blind spot with the first Trump administration, or a blind spot with Donald Trump in general. Not that it wasn't on his list of priorities. This wasn't something that you heard a lot about. You know, the chronic illness that our terrible food supply in this country causes, the chronic illness that leads to being chronically medicated, which just stuffs money into the hands of these insurance companies and big pharma companies. The whole thing is like this circular scam between the food and you know, medical industry in this country. Um, I love the fact that that's going to be part of RFK Jr.'s focus,
Mhm.
is bringing these agriculture companies, the Monsantos and whatnot, to heal, and really looking into the big pharma companies, the FDA, CDC, things like that. That's major, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's a huge drain on our society. The amount of resources we put into people with disabilities, and you know, people are going on disability and becoming net negatives to the system at way too young of an age. At today's
You, you're completely right, and I felt the exact same way. You know, Donald Trump had, you know, a series of beats that he would consistently hit in regards to corruption and the way it was defined. And RFK also talking about corruption from the exact same angle. The same people are committing these acts, okay, but it's just a different level of corruption, a different lane, if you will. And so to have those two lanes merge into one, it is extremely exciting to me. You know, we've talked about health freedom and the idea of, you know, the corruption that exists within, you know, all of those industries that you mentioned, ag, pharma, you know, the various federal agencies that completely lied to the American people during the pandemic. You know, President Trump is meeting with people about a vaccine safety issue that's happening right now. Mothers whose children have been damaged by vaccines, people who took the COVID vaccine because they were told that it was safe and effective, and now obviously they're disabled or they've got some, you know, overarching health effect. But, you know, you can wrap all of that stuff into chronic disease, as RFK said. You know, and here's the thing, you know, President Trump in his first term in office, I always knew that he wasn't going to just walk in and like tear the mask off and be like, guess what? You're all fucked. I'm taking all of it on, because that would have put him into a very dangerous predicament. You know, it wouldn't have been safe, and he would have gotten even less done than he did. So he moved through the office of the presidency in a really covert way. I mean, think about how many neocons, how many war hawks that he brought into his administration, like John Bolton. I mean, were you excited when he brought John Bolton into the administration? I certainly wasn't. And I remember thinking at the time, you know, like, what is he doing? But, you know, he had to have alliances to move throughout Washington, D.C. and get done what he needed to get done. And he brought our nation to a certain point. They kicked it down with the COVID pandemic, and he left the country in a situation that was much better than if it had been anybody else. So they lied about him. They destroyed his reputation. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden walk into Washington, D.C., and immediately just kick the nation off of a cliff. And so this precipitous decline is immediately evident to every single person out there, even to the people who supported Harris and Biden. You know, they're looking at the country and they're like, geez, oh, Pete, you know, it really was better when Trump was in office. And now, as time has gone on, more and more gets exposed. Everybody knows that we need to have Trump back, and they've already tried to assassinate him. So now here he is. The mask really is off. He's telling everybody exactly what he's going to do. He gets to talk about, you know, certain things that he has, you know, a lot of history discussing. RFK does the exact same thing. And as they keep bringing in allies from across the political spectrum, each and every one of those people are probably going to have their own lanes. And I think you're going to have a cabinet and a government that is going to be transitional, but also transformational. It's going to be a wholly different beast than what we saw. And I always figured Trump 2.0 would go hard. It would go much, much harder, because you have 4 years, okay? And you have to set up the next level of the political dynasty. Who is going to take that over? Who is going to continue the work? You know, how do you make America first? How do you create the nation in a way that is going to allow that to be fostered and continue on even after you're gone? Health is a huge aspect of that. ending the corporate revolving door inside federal agencies, that is a huge aspect of it. Ending the forever wars, that is a huge aspect of it. Ending the abuse of children and the willful neglect of society so that you can create a pipeline of customers into the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Absolutely. I'm so excited about everything that's going on. I'll be really honest.
Yeah, you're talking about multiple paradigms that have massive, massive implications on our day-to-day lives, our mental health, our overall, I think, like karmic balance as a society. When you talk about, the things that are done with our tax dollars, kind of in our name. When you talk about like the humanitarian crises that we see. Um, Especially like at the southern border and whatnot. There's so much to what you just said there. All of them, I think, all of those things you mentioned have major, major implications. I want to show you this, Zach. Um, and it's just another, these like fake news side by side things. So this is before RFK speech. This is a year ago or so, January 9th, 2023. It says why ultra processed foods are so bad for you. This is a Time magazine article, right? RFK Jr. comes out and talks about, the problem with processed foods and chronic illness. And then here you go. Time magazine. What if ultra processed foods aren't as bad as you think? Like it's so unbelievable the way these major news outlets just turn on a dime. Same publication, same topic, complete opposite point of view, depending on who's talking about what, who's making noise out there in the political world. It's so disgusting, what we're seeing.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And obviously, they want you to remain unhealthy. They want you to eat those ultra processed foods. And to be quite obvious, I mean, those media companies probably have controlling interests that are owned by some of those major conglomerates that are putting out that terrible garbage. I went to the doctor today. I had to do a follow up. I gave some blood the other day, and the doctor's all worried about like what my levels are. Like my cholesterol's high. Okay, well, it's always been high, and I know enough about cholesterol to know that I'm not going to take statins, and I'm not going to go hit this artificial target. They want it to be 100. If it's at 100, that means that I've got 50 HDL, 50 LDL. I'm at 248, all right? And it's a balance between the two, basically. Without cholesterol, your brain doesn't develop properly, your body can't heal, your blood vessels and your heart, everything is going to be out of whack. So I'm not going to change any of that stuff. But the doctor is going from this artificial number that was given to him by guidelines that are probably written by the same companies that are producing the statins. Okay. My couple of my other levels were just a little bit elevated, but I'm not going to change the way that I eat. Excuse me. I'm not going to change the way that I live my life because I already know the food that I'm eating is natural. It's whole foods. I'm eating meats. I'm eating dairy. I'm eating drinking raw milk. I'm eating full fat salted butter that is coming from grass-fed dairy cows. I'm eating fruits and vegetables that aren't laden with pesticides and poisons. So I refuse to believe that by eating in the most natural way possible, that my body is somehow going to disintegrate. I'm healthier right now than I have been at any other point in my life. And I see the people who eat low-fat diets, who are filling their gullets with artificial ingredients. And it's not a pretty sight. You take a look around in America. If we knew so much about how to keep people healthy, then why is everybody unhealthy and out of shape?
It's a great point. It's a great point. Like we pride ourselves on having like the most advanced medicine and whatnot, but we are easily physically and mentally one of the most unhealthy nations in the country, especially mentally, man. The amount of people that are on some kind of psychotropic, like antidepressant or ADHD medication, you can't focus, you can't get out of bed, you can't cope with your day-to-day life. Like that doesn't come from nowhere. That comes
Mhm.
from bad nutrition or just a lack of nutrition. You don't give your brain the energy to develop, like you said, or fight off disease, and you make yourself sick because you're not fueling your body with the nutrition it needs. And even worse, a lot of times you're putting in, when you eat these processed foods or these GMO produce or whatever it is, you're introducing things into your body that your body has to expend energy fighting off. So that's energy that could be spent healing or developing. It's now on defense. So that's such another huge paradigm shift that needs to happen. It's criminal. They do it from like such a young age too. I was watching with my nieces not long ago. I was watching like TV with them, cartoons or whatever, and it's just constant ads for like sugary cereals, candy, and bubble gum, and like all this stuff that like sugar's such a drug. Like it is literally like the first drug you're introduced to as a human, pretty much is like refined sugar. It's like you can't advertise tobacco products to children, but you could advertise like these sugary candies and cereals to them that really fuck with them at a young age and their like development. It's just wild to me, like the way our priorities and like the hypocrisy and what can be and can't be like targeted at children. Like I would argue that there's 1,000% more damage done to the health of our society by pushing the sugary stuff at young kids than there ever was by like Joe Cool, like,
Oh yeah.
cartoon, like a cigarette, and I'm not saying you should be able to advertise cigarettes to children. That's not my point. But I think like if like sugar, like you shouldn't be able to push sugar at kids either. It's equally destructive, if not more destructive, when you do that crap.
And have you seen the modern food pyramid?
No, I haven't looked at like I've not since I was like in middle school have I really looked at is it still like all grains at the bottom?
Well, I mean, the last time I saw it, it's no longer a pyramid. I think it's more like an upside down trapezoid. They changed the shape. They changed the order of that you're basically supposed to eat all carbs now. Like
Okay.
that's the way that it works, and which is totally ridiculous because carbs make you fat. It's
That's how
just,
it used to be too. Like
well, you
the
had a lot
carb.
of breads. It was complex carbs. Okay,
Okay.
now they don't distinguish between complex and non-complex carbs. They just want you to eat a bunch of sugar and processed foods.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that that is going to become a focus of Trump administration 2.0 because I think we wouldn't be as easily manipulated as we are if we weren't as mentally ill as we are as a society. I this whole like snowflake generation as they call it or whatever. I don't think that that's a product of just good times that make soft people. I think that we are chemically attacked. Our brains are chemically attacked
Oh yeah.
uh, by big food, by big pharma to make us more susceptible, so it really accelerates that in a big way. I mean, sure, times are good, food is not scarce. Our day-to-day needs are for the most part met. And I can understand how that feeds into it a little bit, but you add in just the absolute garbage we put into our bodies at every turn, and it leaves us even more and more susceptible. Um, moving on from that, I wanted to bring this up too because they're so desperate right now, Zach, to separate Kamala Harris from Joe Biden. I'm sure you've seen this Politico headline, but this just speaks volumes right here. So they're quoting JD Vance, who's been absolutely awesome so far on the ticket with
He
Donald
has.
Trump. I gotta say, like every day that goes by, like you could really see it. This guy was the perfect pick. He's getting crowds at rallies of like thousands and thousands of people without Donald Trump being there with him. I don't know if there's ever been a vice president that's been able to like fill up space the way he has when it comes to like getting people to come out and see him speak. That's besides the point. The Politico headline reads, "Our corrupt leadership currently Biden's vice president," which is like, but like the fact that Politico is putting out an article like JD Vance is somehow being deceptive by trying to tether the vice president to the president. I mean, we're going over the deep end here, Zach. Like, I don't know
It's
who's falling for this shit. I don't know who reads that. Like, oh, that trickster JD Vance. I don't know what he's trying to pull. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
it's so ridiculous. I mean, usually I mean, first of all, obviously, because she's the vice president, there's no way to untether her from the Biden regime. Okay. And not only that, but she was also the border czar. All right. They also tried to gaslight the American people into believing that that was never a thing. But obviously, the internet's forever. I mean, people are figuring this stuff out pretty quickly. That's also a really satisfying aspect of this election cycle is that so many people have broken out of that programming of the mainstream media, and so many people are fact checking. I want to go back here just one more time to the incredible coup that was achieved with the purchase of Twitter by Elon Musk. All right, you know, he may have overpaid for it, but I don't know that you can truly put a price on the deep state's ability to brainwash the masses. I mean, that was a tremendous tool that existed before, and Community Notes was controlled by leftist activists. All right. And so you would put something true on Twitter, it would immediately get community noted, and the PSYOP would be the community note. So then people would see that, and then they would, oh, okay, well, I guess this person's lying. But now the lies are in the tweet, and the community is noting the truth right below it. And people looking at that headline, okay, so what exactly are you trying to say here, Politico? I mean, she is the vice president. All right. She's been there for the last 4 years. All right. And nobody can think of a single thing she's done of note other than, you know, her laugh. I mean, that's all she's got, you know, talking about coconut trees and stuff. Willie Brown, I think a lot of people know about Willie Brown. A lot of people know her as Heels Up Harris. A lot of people know her as Montel Williams' ex-girlfriend. But I mean, name for me one thing she did besides creating bail reform in California and locking up nonviolent drug offenders so that she could get more license plates made. I mean, I can't think of a single thing.
No, her record is abysmal. You know, from the moment she got into politics, her record's been absolutely abysmal.
Oh yeah.
And that's why like their whole campaign is around words like joy. Like we're running on joy, basically. Like there's nothing there to
It's
dig
not a
in.
policy.
There's no substance. There's no substance to any of these. It's like they're trying to go on good vibes and platitudes alone, but there's no record to celebrate. There's no ideas that the people find um, to be helpful. So they just come out with things like joy, strength through joy, or whatever it is, like taking it right out of the Nazi freaking playbook. And then, and
How
then
ironic.
yeah, and then plagiar like the fact that Kamala Harris is now pro border wall, you know, and
I mean,
anti
the only policies she's mentioned are Trump's policies.
right,
Like,
right? Yeah,
literally.
yeah, removing taxes from tips. I mean, the flip-flopping, the plagiarism. Um, I think that might ultimately be what hurts her most is like the border wall thing. Because look, we have goldfish memories in this country. It's easy for the media to gaslight a large portion of the country still. But the border wall issue, man, like that was like the headline of the first Trump administration.
Oh yeah. Build the
Every
wall.
Democrat was so hardcore against that, including there's no way they're gonna sell that one to the American people that like all of a sudden she's pro wall. Like, okay, well, what were you doing for the past 3.5 years, borders are? Why weren't you pushing the senile idiot that you're serving under there to like finish building the border wall or talking to the Senate, trying to get them to create a bill or funding to finish the border wall? It's such a joke. It's such a
And President Trump also reposted this tweet from 2017 from Kamala Harris. Hold on, where is it? It was her in 2017 saying illegal aliens are not criminals or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
And he
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, are you sure, Kamala? Do you stand by that? And yeah, so I mean, and what she's flipped on fracking. She came up with the no tax on tips. She one-upped him on like a new tax credit. Now, the one policy that is original that I will give her is her $5 trillion tax plan to tax unrealized gains.
Oh
Utah
yeah.
money mover, you definitely probably already know about this one. But yes, they want to tax your unrealized gains on stocks that you own that you haven't been paid out on yet. 25% Okay. So, like, let's say in 1 year, you've got, a particular profit that you would make if you were to sell those stocks. Kamala Harris wants you to pay it out. And then immediately after the first of the year, something catastrophic happens and the value of the stock plummets. Okay. And you lose any of that vested profit that would be there. Okay. Are they going to give you a tax credit back? Are they going to pay you back on any of that? I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. It's unconstitutional. And I think that right there should be enough for any millionaires or any big time investors to say, hold on, slow it down a little bit.
That's wild too, because if you don't want to pay, I think it's like what, almost 40% on like capital gains, like after you do sell, like you have to hold on to an investment. I think it's for a year, to pay the lower amount. So it's like, oh, if you hold on to it for a year, then we're going to charge you before you sell it, and then charge you when you sell it, or you sell it quicker and we'll charge you more for selling it quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute theft. It's an insane idea. I don't think it's ever gonna actually make its way through Congress unless, God forbid, the Democrats get a like veto proof, or not veto proof, but a filibuster proof majority in the Senate. I do think even our Rhino Senate would block something as absurd as that. But the fact that they're kind of tipping their hand as to what they'd like to do, that's a wild one to me. That's a very radical position. This whole idea of taxing unrealized gains.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I they've already done something like this with crypto. I mean, like for the last couple of years, they had wanted me to report any increase in value in crypto holdings that I had. And so I had to report that on my taxes. I have an accountant, so I don't even know how that played into it. But they didn't care when I lost everything.
Right.
I didn't get to write that down or anything.
Yeah.
And
Sorry about your loss, but
mhm. Anyways, I don't have any investments now because I don't have any fucking money. All right, let's get Donald Trump back into office so that we can get people back to work and continue to make America great again. This entire nation is falling apart because of every single one of their policies. I can understand why they would want to untether her from the Biden administration, because you don't have a single policy that you can look the American people in the face and say, look what we did for you, because they haven't done anything. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing what's going on in California, right? I mean, like, it's not bad enough the United States government is flying illegals here, giving them free room and board, giving them free Medicare, setting them up with a social security number so they can work, oftentimes giving them a driver's license, giving them free gender reassignment surgery if they want it. But in California, they just passed through the state legislature a bill to give illegals, not everybody, just illegals, which is an illegal program in and of itself because it's discriminating based upon a protected class, giving illegals zero down payment, zero interest, $150,000 loans to purchase a home. Now, I don't know how many houses you can get in the state of California for $150,000 or less, but I would hazard a guess that there's at least a couple of little hovels, some shacks out there that you could probably get in that price range. I mean, houses and property are very expensive in California, but to imagine that they would give them $150,000 free, that they don't have to pay any down payment on, that they don't have to make any monthly payments on, and that they only have to pay back with a 20% VIG at the end if they sell their property. Completely ridiculous.
You know what that's gonna do too is, and I don't know, like I've been to California a couple of times. It's been 7, 8 years since I've been out there last. But you're not going to be able to buy anything in any of like the bigger cities where they're already very liberal. But I'm guessing the more rural areas of California where
Oh, yeah.
properties are cheaper and they're more conservative, like it's an attack on them because those people, that's if you're going to buy property, they're probably going to have to, move out from those more populated areas and they're going to start buying up property in these more rural areas. So I think it's even more to push out a lot of the conservative or dilute some of that conservative concentration in some of those more rural areas of California. 'Cause that's what
Mhm.
I've heard from people in California is you have your like most states, you have your big cities where it's very, very blue. I mean, California just happen to have a bunch of them between Oakland and LA and San Francisco and um, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank. But the point is that you're not going to get property in those areas for 150K, but I bet there's, in less popular areas that are more red, that's what'll be targeted there.
Well, you're probably going to have a bunch of people who have, stacked up a nice little nest egg, running fentanyl or selling women, or children, even maybe even running guns, and they're going to use that $150,000 to offset whatever it is that they're going to be buying. And yeah, I mean, and think about it. There's plenty of places in California that are just crumbling, falling apart. I think it is Oakland. Well, I don't know. Any of those places are around that area. You've just got great swaths of urban blight. Homeless people, condemned buildings, empty buildings, and somebody's going to have to fill that stuff up. I mean, if there is a way to monetize that and market it to illegals, then they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Think about what they've done with the hotels, Adel.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's insane. Um, so how about the CNN interview tonight? I guess that's coming out with Kamala, and she's going to have Tim Walz sitting next to her because she can't do it by herself. It's pre-recorded, it's not live, so it's not really so much as an interview. It is like a produced TV segment. I don't know
Yeah.
what you really want to call it. What do you expect? You expect CNN to be helpful to her, or is this the beginning of a second queue? Like, is Kamala? I guess what I'm asking is Kamala and Tim Walz. Is that the ticket that we're actually going in with? Do you think that there's any other change of batter coming? Because CNN kind of led the last coup against Biden to bring in Kamala. Like, will they make her look good or bad, or attempt to make her look good or bad this time around?
I think honestly at this point it's Harris Walls. I don't see how they would be able to bring in any other sets of candidates at this point. They've already had the psychological impact of the DNC, the 5-day shellacking of Kamala Harris and the the swift burial of Joe Biden. I mean, he's gone. He's not coming back. And yes, I think that CNN is going to basically grease her up as best they can. They're going to chop and screw all of the various statements that she makes. They'll cut out any word salad segments, and they'll try to present her in the best light to the American people. I think it's going to be light on policy. I'm sure it's going to be pretty heavy on, the types of things that you hear coming out of the Democrats. I mean, just like basic surface level stuff. Certainly, they're going to, talk about how it's time for a black woman to be president. Tim Walz is probably going to, fall at his on his knees at the feet of Kamala Harris, worshiping at the altar of DEI. They will probably try to talk about some of the things Tim Walz has done in Minnesota, what he wants to bring to Washington, D.C. They'll also try to talk about the various policies that Kamala has enumerated in terms of her spokespeople going out and talking to a couple of different talking head segments on the mainstream media. But I don't think it's going to be a hard interview. I think it's going to be a bunch of softballs. And I mean, from the moment that they coronated her, the mainstream media has just been gushing over how great she is, but without giving any actual substance to those claims. And I think that's the only way that they can continue to do this. There's a reason she's not doing any interviews. It's because everybody knows that the more FaceTime she gets, the less likely it is people are going to buy her bullshit come November. It's like Joe Biden doing interviews from his basement in Rehoboth Beach. I mean, like it's a carefully calculated move, but I just don't think it will be successful this time around. People before, Joe, he's got so much to do, and God, I can really understand if his knees hurt. Well, I think a lot of people are figuring Kamala Harris's knees are pretty tired by this point too. So of course she's going to be staying home.
How do we get here, Zach? Like, you have this oligarchy that runs this country. They know Trump is coming back or trying to come back. Like, how do we get to a point where they went from the cadaver Joe Biden to the cackling, nonsense of Kamala Harris. Like, you would think that with all the resources that these people have, their control over the media, the control over most of the major institutions in this country, that they would be able to produce somebody more competent, more able to go out and handle themselves in interviews, press conferences, public speaking events, whatever it is, than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Like, is it just ineptitude? Is this like the 5D chess, that we've always talked about? Like, trust the plan. Like, they're don't get in the way of your enemy when they're destroying themselves. Like, it's so unfathomable to me that this is what they're left with here. They're trying so hard to close out, their 16-year plan or whatever to ruin the country or destroy the country, destroy the Constitution. And this is who they have trying to carry the ball across the finish line is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. What's going on here? How the hell do they get to this point, in your opinion?
So never underestimate greed, hubris, and corruption. Hillary Clinton was diabolical. Okay, for all of Barack Obama's misgivings and his weaknesses, I mean, I think he was still a pretty savvy guy too. But they needed somebody in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that ticked boxes and that could be easily controlled. Joe Biden was an asset because he was a career politician with 5 decades in public service that was essentially defined by his own ability to engage in public corruption and likely blackmail people. So Joe Biden was useful. Kamala Harris was a face with melanin and a woman. All right. And so it was something that they could market because they had already started moving away from any substance or issues. And they were trying to go down this DEI rabbit hole almost exclusively. So they painted themselves into a corner. I mean, point out one person in the Democrat Party who exhibits the qualities that you said you would expect them to put forward. I mean, I would argue they don't exist. These people are lazy. And I think that they have become so used to getting what it is that they want. They don't have any quality talent sitting on that back bench. You've got actors and you've got people who are controlled. And that is how you get to the point that you're at right now. We've been fostering people of intellect, people with, sound ideas on policy, people who have been paying attention in the background. We don't have to control absolutely everything of this government as it's slowly destroying itself. I mean, that's what happens to empires that get too big for their britches. I mean, Rome used to rule the entire world. All right. And it was a slow, gradual decline. And the Roman emperors got worse and worse and worse. They would treat the people terribly. They would enrich themselves. They would engage in hedonistic practices. And at a certain point, things fell apart naturally. I think that that's what we're seeing right now. And our side is putting forward people who are going to rebuild that great Colosseum.
Yeah, no, I think that's really well said. We got to take a quick minute and take care of our sponsor. Let me go ahead and get that queued up, and then we'll come back and finish out the show here on the other side. Our sponsor today is Brightcore. I believe it's the first time they've sponsored Taking It Back, so big shout out to Brightcore. In life, there are good guys and there are bad guys. The same is true in your gut. Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition is a fermented superfood your body needs to arm the good guys with the right weapons to defeat the bad actors once and for all. Containing over 900 strands of beneficial bacteria in each capsule, support healthy digestion, fortify your immune system, and stop aging dead in its tracks. With Kimchi One, only from Brightcore Nutrition, if you're experiencing problems with gut health or digestion, if you want to enhance the quality of your skin and hair, or boost your immune function, Kimchi One is a fermented superfood your body needs. Kimchi One is all natural, made in the USA, and non-GMO. You can call Brightcore at 888-652-4131 and get up to 50% off your order plus free shipping. You can also visit mybrightcore.com/Badlands for the buy two bottles, get one free exclusive Badlands offer online. Improve your health with Kimchi One. Visit mybrightcore.com/Badlands or call 888-652-4131 for these exclusive offers. Again, that's mybrightcore.com/Badlands if you guys are interested. And then we also have a quick word from the Badlands shop. We'll be back in 1 minute.
In today's fast-paced world, peace of mind is priceless. That's where Badlands Media steps in. Preparing for life's uncertainties is about being ready for anything, right where you are. Welcome to the Badlands Media Shop. We've partnered with Patriot companies offering products that empower you to prepare for any eventuality comfortably from your home. The Badlands Media Shop has everything you need to secure your peace of mind. Browse the virtual aisles. Prepare your family for the year ahead with products you can trust from companies that share your values. Whether it's growing your own food or prepping long-term storage, protecting your family, or stocking up on emergency supplies, we've got you covered. Get prepared. Visit Badlands Media Shop at badlandsmedia.tv/shop today. Every purchase supports a freedom-loving business as well as Badlands Media. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop. Thank you for your continued support.
All right, we are back. One last thing on the campaign here. I'm hearing rumors George W. Bush is going to endorse Kamala Harris. I feel like that's going to do more harm than good for them. And the reason I say that is I've had conversations with a few people, that are on the left, and outside of the online world, and they talk about George W. Bush with such disdain. The left hated him, the media hated him. So the fact that he's now on their side, you would think that's going to trigger. So when we talk about uniparty and the establishment and Donald Trump as an outsider, you would think that an endorsement from George W. Bush would only further cement that idea or validate that idea, right? They'd be like, you know what, Georgie, just sit back and sit this one out. We don't need your endorsement here.
You would think so, but I remember not that long ago when the radical left was screaming about George W. Bush being a war criminal, and I would hazard a guess and say that a fair number of them, specifically ones that are out on college campuses, they probably still feel that way. And so the idea that George W. Bush endorsing Kamala Harris is somehow going to ingratiate her with any of those people is erroneous. I do think that it will hurt them, but I don't think that he would be doing it for them. He would be doing it for normie Republicans who, perhaps Lincoln Project types, the ones that are meeting 14-year-old boys off of Grindr, and they don't feel like they can vote for Donald Trump. But even among them, I don't think it's going to move the needle. It's like, a couple days ago, they had like 200.
Do you know any Lincoln Project style Republicans in real life? Have you actually met anybody like, yeah, I'm conservative, but Donald Trump is just too much for me. I'm voting Kamala. I've never in my life met one of these people.
No, I haven't. Down here in Florida, I have met a couple of Republicans. It was a couple of years ago, and it was in the early days of, all of these criminal indictments, and they were like, talking, oh, he stormed the Capitol and he did this and he did that. And I'm like, everything that you're saying is wrong. I'll have a conversation with you if you want, but your brain is captured by the mainstream media. That's a major problem for you and for this country. No, in real life, I've never met somebody who was a member of the Lincoln Project, and I've only seen them in terms of the scenario that I just described. I mean, that's a legit scenario. I can't remember the predator poachers guy. He caught one of them. And then there was another one who actually got indicted, and I think he's in prison now. But that's a normal thing. I mean, we've talked about it many, many times. Pederasty knows no ideology or political guidelines. I mean, you've got people who identify as a Republican, you've got people who identify as a Democrat, and both of them just happen to be diddling kids. There was a state senator in not Nebraska, in North Dakota. Somebody had sent me, it was somebody in the chat. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but she had sent me an article about this long-time state senator. He was a Republican, and he got busted having a friend who went to prison for having child sexual abuse material on his phone. And this guy was going to the Czech Republic to pay to rape young boys. And he was shameless about it. And anyways, he got busted. He's a Republican. Did he ever have the same beliefs as somebody like us? I highly doubt it. I think that, people will choose labels as a matter of political expediency. People want to be powerful. They want to have access to the things that they want. And in this guy's instance, he wanted access to money so he could go to Eastern Europe and rape kids. And so I think that there are definitely people out there who will claim to be one thing or another. But George W. Bush represents the old guard of the Republican Party, the neocons that both Donald Trump and RFK Jr. are talking about, getting out of government. We need those people to go away. The Bill Kristols of the world, the Paul Wolfowitzes, any of those people I'm not interested in. And they could say, a lot of different things, and none of it would sway me.
Yeah. One last thing I want to get into, because I know you got to go, but you're seeing all these bullshit polls come out. I've been watching Rich Barris a lot. He's been kind of tearing into like the crosstabs and the numbers of these different mainstream media polls that are trying to make the race look closer than it really is, or even showing Harris in the lead in a lot of instances. But if you look past all that, Steve Bannon always talks about signal and noise. There's a major signal coming out when they drop a superseding indictment at this stage on Donald Trump, right? You don't do that. Something that's going to have such political backlash unless your internal polling numbers, the ones that aren't juiced to gaslight the public, are showing you a pretty dire situation, right? Like, you look at that the same way. This indictment is nothing more than like a narrative grab, a headline grab, something to try to move, like a desperate move to try to, I don't know, move the needle as far as the election goes, because I don't believe any of these polls, and I don't think that they do either. They wouldn't be doing that if they were winning right now.
No. It's a desperate attempt by Jack Smith to try to paint Donald Trump as a felon in the eyes of the American people. All he did was take the exact same criminal charges, remove any reference to Donald Trump being president or interacting with the DOJ, which would be an official act, and in his mind, bettering his chances of being able to get a guilty verdict. But no, it's not going to work. And I feel like it's totally transparent. And even if this case doesn't go away before the election, after the election, every single legal jeopardy that President Trump might be in is going to dissipate. It's going to disappear. And Mima Hunter, definitely watch that Sean Ryan interview. Here's the thing. You can't prove a negative. Donald Trump never called the military losers. It was always a fake news story. So what you want to do is have the person you're arguing with prove to you that Donald Trump did say it, because you can't prove he didn't say it other than his many different statements that he never said it. Just because Joe Biden or the media reports this over and over and over again, it doesn't mean that it actually happened. It never did. Never did.
Yeah, another hoax. Good people on both sides, bloodbath, dictator on day one. All these things. It's all nonsense. Don't worry, I'm sure Snopes will debunk it like 7 years from now.
That's right. That's right.
Zach, as always, man, thank you so much. I know you got to get going. If you want to tell everyone what you're covering today or what you got going on, take it.
Whole bunch of stuff we didn't cover today, but I'll be live for 2 hours. So come hit me up, guys. We'll see ya. All right. Peace.
Later, Zach. Thank you. There he goes. Zach Payne, Red Pill 78news.com. Always appreciate hanging out with Zach on Thursdays for taking it back. He's going live in just a few minutes here. He goes live at 5 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. And then he's got his Friday and Saturday night streams as well. So definitely go check out everything he's got going on. Again, that's redpill78news.com. My name is Adel Nero. My channel is 412 Productions. You'll find me on pilled.net. That's our main hub, is over in the comfy bunker on pilled.net. We also do a portion of every show on Rumble, DLive, Cloud Hub, Odyssey, and Twitter. If you want to find me on Twitter, though, it's at 412anon87. I'd love to earn your follow, guys, wherever you are. Talking to all of you friends over on Badlands Media. So please come find me. Please come give me a follow and hang out with me. I go live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We go from 4 to 6 p.m. And yeah, this Saturday, we're doing a Saturday morning chat, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm having my old buddy M3 Methods joining me at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. So those of you guys that remember Methods and want to come hang out, that'll be on pilled.net. And we'll probably do a portion of the show on Rumble and the other platforms too. But the entirety of the show will be available on pilled.net. So I hope you guys will come hang out with me there. I am going to keep hanging out for a while longer, do a little overtime with the fam over on Pilled at 412 Productions. I'd love if you guys would come join me. If you're not going to join me, definitely go hang out with Zach over on his show today. He just went live. I'm going to put a link to my Pilled channel in the Badlands chat and in my Rumble chat as well. And I'll throw it over on DLive too. Not sure what we're going to do. Maybe take some calls, play some music. Who knows? I never really have a plan for these overtime hours. I just kind of see what's what and see where we go. So I really have no agenda, but I'll throw the call-in number on the screen. We'll play some tunes, hang out. I'll take requests, whatever you guys want to do. That'll be the plan. But that's going to do it for taking it back today. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out and being part of it. If you're watching on the Badlands Rumble, please hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. If you're on pilled.net, give us a red pill and repost the show. And I hope you guys will come join us for a little bit of overtime over on Pilled. I'm going to play the outro, and we'll come back in just a minute to shut everything else down. See you guys soon. All right. Big thank you to everyone jumping over to keep hanging out with me on Pilled. Otherwise, guys, have an awesome rest of your Thursday, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time to wrap up the week tomorrow afternoon on 412 Productions. So have a good one. And Pilled, I'll be right there.